So I'm going to start off with some good news. The Wyoming Cowboys are rocking. And I was at an event last Friday at the University of Wyoming where we did the groundbreaking for the new engineering building, which is absolutely fabulous. And it was another one of those events that we have occasion to go to in Wyoming where you recognize how fortunate we are to live in this state. So I was there, Governor Gary was there, Governor Sullivan was there, and we see what's going on nationally. And for me, at any time, I could pick up the phone, call Governor Gary, Governor Sullivan, go to a city call, and get friendly, sound advice. That's a remarkable thing in this day and age, and it reminds me how fortunate we are. And I told the story that I play golf twice a year now in charity events, and you should play golf either not at all or 200 times a year. It's absolutely horrible, like my insurance premiums go up when they learn I'm playing golf. But I was playing with Governor Sullivan this last charity tournament, and he always drives, because he's older than the whippersnapper, and he's got to be driving the cart. And we're like, I don't know, 100 yards off the first tee, and he turns to me and he says, "Did you smell that?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he says, "Is that you?" "No, it's not me." He said, "Why don't you know it's not me?" Well, so you have a golf bag that sits around all year. Something crawled in there and died. It couldn't even be identified. It was mushy. It was smelly. And so, like on the 10th hole, I'm playing terrible golf, and he's like, "You stink, your bag stinks." What? I'm so pleased to be here, and I see the county commissioners here. I just want to say I've had numerous opportunities to come to Sweetwater County, usually for some wonderful thing the county has done, the town has done, Green River has done, and always welcomed with open arms. So it's really great to be back. The relationship I've been able to have with the mayors and the county commissioners has been most helpful to me as I try to make the best decisions possible for the state of Wyoming. So the county commissioners, mayor, thank you very much for the hospitality you always show. And while this year I didn't make the National Finals High School because it was another part of the state, I got to say that is a wonderful event you all have here, and I always enjoy coming here. And Dave, for the chamber, it's got to just be a wonderful thing for the business community here. And so thank you all for putting that together, and thank you for the invitation. Larry is smart enough. He is a wizard, because the first time he put it together, he said, "And we're going to have the governor's function area tonight, and you're invited, Matt." So I appreciate the invitation to the governor's event, Larry. Congratulations. So here's what I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about the budget. So as all of you know, Wyoming does not build our budget on money on hand. We build our budget based upon projections provided by the Consensus Revenue Estimate Group, called the CRAIG. And the CRAIG meets in October, and then they meet in January, and then during the interim period, for example, in June of this year, they can have another meeting. And so the CRAIG comes in and says, "This is what we anticipate in terms of the money available to the state of Wyoming for you to budget." So last year, the October CRAIG and then the January CRAIG, the legislature met, and the legislature made some cuts. They had what they call the penny plan. And in late May, early June, the CRAIG started worrying about where revenue was, and they came in and said, we're going to have this extreme shortfall here. We're going to be between $250 and $500 million short of where we anticipated we were going to be even several months ago. So when you get that news, 250 to 500 million, you have to react to that. So I worked with individual agencies and made cuts. They were not across the board cuts. They were individual cuts because we wanted to be as strategic as possible. Those cuts were about $248 million. So I cut on the low end, not the high end. I think now, as we head into the next CRAIG, which will be coming out here in the next week or so, that those cuts are about right. I don't think that additional cuts are going to be needed, certainly before the session, and I'm hoping not during the session. During the session, though, the state has a big decision. We have a huge decision to make. In my time in office, the rainy day fund, which is for rainy days, has about doubled in size. The rainy day fund is named the rainy day fund because when it's raining economically, it allows you to go and withstand highs and lows, ups and downs, and allows you to keep going. The state has cut, the legislature cut, I've made cuts. We need to cut to be fiscally sound. But we cannot cut our way to economic prosperity. It cannot happen. Because those cuts that I made, I didn't like them, the legislature didn't like them, the citizens of Wyoming didn't like them. If we want to, and I agree with the mayor, where the strength, economic strength of Wyoming comes from is our local communities. If we want to weather this storm right now, we cannot cut where we say to the mayor, to the county, you can't repair the bridge, you can't repair the road. If you do that, good luck keeping the businesses you have here, let alone recruiting new businesses. And as I say, I am not a weatherman, but it's raining in Wyoming. It is raining, and we should recognize that, and we should be having a serious discussion this next session of how much of the rainy day fund to use. I proposed usage of it last year. I didn't get everything I asked for. I'm going to propose usage of it again this year. We're not going to spend all of it. We will remain fiscally conservative. But we have to have an ability to weather this storm, and that is specifically what the rainy day fund has been set up for. And so that will be my request as we head into the session. Because as we've made these cuts, largely because the timing, the state hasn't even felt these cuts that I've made yet. But they will be felt at the health, on our roads, on Department of Family Services. They will be felt all across the board. And the group that often feels them more so than any is at the local government. If the state's cutting 8%, local government's looking at 10, 12% oftentimes. So we have to make sure we are wise in our decision making, because if we continue to try to just cut our way out of this, we'll create our own economic death spiral. And we can't do it, and I won't allow it to happen finally. So we're going to continue to look at the rainy day fund, see how we can use it, and make sure that Wyoming gets through this, and when we do, we are well suited. We are well suited to go with a good time. So that's the budget. Now, on fund projects that we are working on that I think you should be aware of is the Innovative Test Center. For those of you who haven't followed, the Innovative Test Center is in Gillette, Wyoming. I asked the legislature to help build this. They provided $15 million for the Innovative Test Center. What this does is to address this issue. Currently, so much of the country is pounding on the gates of the coal-fired plants trying to shut them down, which would be a horrible thing for Wyoming and frankly a horrible thing for the country because we energize the country. We export more energy than any other state. We are aware of the Clean Power Plant, which will again have an adverse effect. So what is the #1 coal-producing state in the country to do about it? We've heard the discussion on climate change. There's people that agree or disagree. In my mind, that's not getting us anywhere. Wyoming should take a leadership role and make sure coal is not left to the whims of politicians, but instead we go forward into the future with science. So the Integrated Test Center is this. We ask this question. Rather than viewing CO2 as a liability, how can we look at it as an asset? How do we look at it as an asset? And in that vein, I began work about 3 years ago with a group called the XPRIZE Foundation. The XPRIZE Foundation is the private group that put up a private spaceship. They do it by offering awards for people who find solutions. And their model is a sound model. So they start with, back in the day, sailors could figure out latitude but not longitude. And rather than paying a single person, they are going to pay $1,000 to try to figure this out. What they said is, whoever figures this out, we're going to pay you an award. And the reason that's valuable is because it opens up the world of minds, right? It opens up to everybody. It doesn't have to be the person with a great resume. Anybody has an opportunity to figure that out. That's the model that XPRIZE uses. And in that case, who figured out longitude? Is a clockmaker. Clockmaker figured it out. When Napoleon was conquering the world, they couldn't figure out how to feed the troops as he was marching around. Same sort of thing. The French government said, we're going to put out a prize. Who can figure this out, we're going to pay him. And in that case, it was a candy maker. Now, in the first case, with the British government, they didn't actually have to pay a clockmaker, but that's beside the point. It's still a good model. The third model, which you'd all be familiar with, is Charles River, when he made his historic flight. If you looked at resumes of all the pilots in the world at that period of time, he was not the one you would choose based upon experience. But he was the one that figured out to the point that to save weight, he cut the edges off his mask to save weight on that flight. This is what we want to do. And 2 weekends ago, I was with the X Prize, and Charles Lindbergh's grandson was there. This is what he thinks we should be doing as well. We should find solutions for the world by these competitions. So we have built, and continue to build, finish, in Cameron County at the newest coal-fired plant, what we call the X Prize ITC, is an opportunity for scientists from around the world to come in, grab the flue gas off that, and test and see what they can make out of it. How can you turn what is used liability into an asset? On the X Prize side, they already had 47 entries, 7 different countries have been interested. On the state side, we also have a big facility for the state to run. We have just opened it up to the RFP. But ladies and gentlemen, this will be a game changer if you can turn what is viewed as liability into an asset. And already we see opportunities. There's been a suggestion to mix it with an algae to create an artificial sweetener. You know, the marketing of that is a challenge, cold with coffee. I don't know how they do that. Another application is feedstock chemicals to help make graphene. And one of the new ones is toothpaste, which I'm assuming would be a very good Wyoming cold toothpaste. I don't know how they work it. But the point is, this is what we need to be doing. We should provide leadership in this, and this is exactly what's happened in the state of Wyoming with the integrated test center. We look forward to what solution comes out. We look forward to solving this not only for Wyoming, but frankly for the world. When you are supplying in excess of 10 quadrillion BTUs a year, you are blessed with that good fortune, but you also take on responsibility to find solutions, and that's what we're doing here in Wyoming. The other issue with regard to energy is we've had 2 iterations of my energy strategy. The second one was to develop pipeline corridors across the state of Wyoming. The challenge is people come in, a company comes in, and they want to, say, ship CO2 from one part of the state to another part of the state for enhanced oil recovery. When they do that, the first thing they have to get is all the federal ground we have creates huge challenges in terms of permitting. So what we did is said, what can we do ahead of time to pre-permit these corridors for these companies? And that's what we're doing. We already have in excess of 1,000 miles that we're looking at, a pipeline corridor, so that when the company comes in, they can automatically say, hey, the permitting is done, we're ready to go, let's build a project. We need to be doing all of these things now so that when good times come, we are as competitive and as productive as possible. So on the energy strategy or the water strategy, where we're trying to build 10 reservoir projects in 10 years, we are trying to advance Wyoming even during these challenging times. This is a challenging time for Wyoming. There's no question about it. But I would point out that we always will be positive. Wyoming's been through this before. But Wyoming hasn't been through it before when we have been as well suited to take care of ourselves, and that is with the rainy day fund. That is an increase in the permanent fund in the last 6 years by 55%. We are in much better position than we have before. And we need to do all of these things to look at our revenue. And the thing we need to focus on, particularly for the state of Wyoming, is diversifying our economy. We cannot tell the counties how to plan whether to build that bridge or not. When 1 year they get $100, the next zero, 100 years. They need not only the money, they need the predictability of money. And that's why we have to diversify our economy. And diversify, not displace. We want the mineral industry to be big and strong. We want tourism, as wonderful as this, to continue to grow. We want ag to continue to grow. But we have to diversify because we are so sensitive to mineral prices. 2 budget sessions ago, the Craig group came in and said, natural gas prices are going to be lower by 25 cents. I had to take $150 million out of my budget. For every $5 oil drops, it's about a $35 million hit to the state of Wyoming. We have to diversify. We have to diversify our revenue, but even more importantly is this. We lose in this state 60% of the age group from 18 to 25. We have precious resources in this state. Nothing is more precious than the people, particularly the young people. We have to reverse that trend. We cannot be the best we want to be as a state if we continue to lose that many young people. They are our future. It is their talent. It is their creativity. It is their passion that will put Wyoming in the best place possible. So every governor, if you go back and you look at almost every governor has in their state, we talk about diversity. I think where I have made a mistake, and perhaps previous governors, is we've looked at it in a 4-year or 8-year term. That's not going to get us to where we're going to go. We need to diversify with a broad view. So we are developing now a 20-year plan to diversify Wyoming's economy. Because honestly, as some of you know, I went back and looked at my grandfather's notes when he was governor in the mid-60s. Talking about diversifying our economy. I looked at an economic report from the 1980s. It talked about how we like to diversify our economy. And everybody graduated from high school has a mandatory level of work in computer science. It's not that the state hasn't thought about this, it's the state has not got it done. And when you look at the opportunities, not with just mineral and ag and tourism, but you look at the opportunities in terms of technology. We should have technology as our 4th largest sector in the state. Not only because it's a good fit, because of our lower electricity costs, because of our open land, available land. We should look at technology because technology, connectivity is a great equalizer in a rural state. It helps with telemedicine, telecommunication, education. It connects us in a remarkable way. And with the unified network the state has now built, which is a 100 gigabit backbone, we have connectivity that is beyond most every other state. In fact, our connectivity to our schools is the best in the country right now. We moved from Internet Protocol version 6, IPv4 to IPv6. We were the first state in the country to do that with a unified network. This is a great opportunity for this state. It's a great opportunity to keep our young people in this state. It's a great opportunity to expand on the already solid industries we have. We will be bigger and bigger in technology. And we want to do that not only because it diversifies our economy, but young people growing up, my kids, they have an expectation of technology. They are not going to accept that they can wander off the path and not have wireless everywhere. I don't know if they even would know where they were if they did. You know, Senator Kraft, when I was growing up in Jackson, we were in a ranch, and we had a landline that was also a party line. And, you know, I had an expectation I'd get on the phone. My mom's senator said, you know, don't listen in, somebody's on the phone, unless it's interesting. She didn't say that. I interpreted it that way. I think she meant it. But imagine all of a sudden for my age group, if somebody said you can't call out, there's no phones. Well, with the younger generation, they not only want and need, but they have an expectation of connectivity. You can't keep kids in the state if you say, listen, we're not interested in that. It's not just a luxury, it is a necessity for these kids to have that level of connectivity in our state. And we should provide that to them. And we should provide it to the adults, because right now in Wyoming, we have people that work 5 days in Chicago and come and spend 2 days where they really want to be in Wyoming. We can reverse that with connectivity. It says you can live in any of our Wyoming towns and do your business and only go to Chicago on the weekend if you have to do that. And I'm not bad enough Chicago, but it ain't Wyoming. Right? So this is the opportunity that we have. The other thing that we're doing is this. I feel so strongly about keeping young people in the state. We started about 2 years ago a program called Wyoming Grown. Wyoming Grown is an opportunity for us to reach out as a state to those young people who may have left the state 10, 15 years ago. And now they're living in Chicago. And they're raising a family. And they say, you know what, I want to get back home. I want to raise my kids in Wyoming, the land that I grew up in, the land that I know. And so we, through Workforce Services, are reaching out to those people. We are populating a database from companies that need people. We're providing that, and when these people make contact with the city of Wyoming, they get a letter from me within about 72 hours saying, we want you back, come back. And we do that not only because we want those young people back and to have the quality of life they know can have in Wyoming, but what we hear from industry oftentimes here is, Fred, is that you will hire that great engineer out of San Antonio, Texas, and they'll come to some part in Wyoming, say Wamsutter, which is different than San Antonio. It is. And even if they like it, their spouse may not like it. But you get the Wyoming kid who grew up there, who loves the sports, who loves the recreation, hunting, fishing, outdoor, the open space. When they come back, they know exactly what they're getting. They want to be here. And that helps companies because the churn is expensive. Having those people turn over is expensive. So we are reaching out to Wyoming people saying, we would like you to come back. And it's designed for young people, but the fact is, it's any age group. We want Wyoming people back because they will provide a good labor force that is needed in the state. So those are some of the things going on. I will point out that it's a remarkable thing in Wyoming, as Senator Kraft said. As I travel around the state, people in different parts of the state have really been hit hard. And it's not just the mineral industry. The ripple effect is felt in our retail stores and our banks. It's felt all across. It's certainly felt at local government. But Wyoming still has the grit and the charity. We go to towns, it's amazing people's charity. People are doing stuff all over the state. They never get recognized, their names never in the paper. But they take time to help a neighbor. And they take time to help a community. And they take time to say, I like Wyoming, I love Wyoming, I want to get back. And that's why, even in these tough times, I can say with confidence, Wyoming's going to be just fine. We're going to be just fine. We will get through this, we'll get through this together, and we'll come out on the other end stronger still.